On an apparently ordinary night, Kelly sought refuge on her porch, trying to find peace in the silence of the evening. But when an unexpected noise echoes inside the house, something changes. Frightened, she runs to the window. And what she sees confronts her with much more than fear. It is an unexpected call to face the past, the loss, and the invisible thread that still connects wounded hearts. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. Kelly sat on her porch, watching the sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and pink. Her heavy eyelids revealed the sleepless nights of recent weeks. At 25, her life seemed like an emotional roller coaster she couldn't control. The diagnosis of generalized anxiety had come just 3 months ago, but the crises were old companions. Since childhood, Kelly had carried an invisible weight. As the only child of divorced parents, she grew up divided between 2 homes and 2 distinct realities. At her father's house, silence prevailed. Her father, a methodical accountant, rarely expressed emotions. His way of showing love was to ensure that nothing was lacking materially. At her mother's house, a literature teacher, the environment was warmer but also chaotic due to irregular schedules and financial instability. Kelly learned to be self-sufficient early on. At school, she was the exemplary student, the one who never caused trouble. Her impeccably organized notebooks concealed the internal storm that was brewing. The high expectations she placed on herself gradually suffocated her. During journalism school, her anxiety attacks intensified. Tight deadlines, presentations, and the constant comparison with more socially adept peers led Kelly to isolate herself more and more. She graduated with distinction, but the emotional cost was high. Now, working as a writer for a small local newspaper, Kelly felt stagnant. The job wasn't bad, but it was far from the dreams she had nurtured for years. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, constant reminders that her financial independence was still fragile. The rented house, though small, consumed a large part of her salary. That Sunday afternoon, after a particularly intense episode that left her exhausted, Kelly decided to walk around the neighborhood to clear her mind. Autumn was arriving slowly, bringing a fresh breeze that eased the late summer heat. The leaves were starting to change color, and Kelly wondered if she could also transform herself. That was when she heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound coming from a cardboard box abandoned near a trash bin. She approached cautiously, expecting to find perhaps an injured bird. When she looked inside the box, her eyes met 2 small dark spheres that gazed back at her with fear and hope. A puppy. It couldn't have been more than 2 weeks old. Golden fur, floppy ears, and a white patch on its chest. It trembled, not only from the cold but from helplessness. Kelly felt something break inside her, a barrier she didn't even know existed. "How could someone abandon you like this?" she whispered, reaching out slowly so as not to scare the little animal. The puppy initially drew back, but soon it came closer, sniffing her fingers with curiosity. Kelly hadn't planned on adopting a dog. Her life was already complicated enough without adding a new responsibility, but there was something in the animal's eyes, an immediate and inexplicable connection. "Let's go home. We'll decide what to do tomorrow," she said, gently picking up the puppy. It fit perfectly in her hands, a soft and vulnerable ball of fur. In the apartment, she improvised a little bed with old towels and offered some water and milk she had in the fridge. The puppy drank desperately as if it hadn't eaten for days, which was probably true. "I need to give you a name," Kelly murmured as she watched him timidly explore the living room. "How about Milo?" The little dog tilted his head at the sound of the word, as if approving. Kelly smiled, her first genuine smile in weeks. That night, when Milo curled up beside her in bed, Kelly realized that she might have found not just a pet, but a companion for her internal battles. In the early days, Kelly researched tirelessly about puppy care. She took Milo to the veterinarian, where she discovered that he was likely a mix of Labrador and Golden Retriever. A dog that will need space and exercise, explained the veterinarian, looking significantly at Kelly, who lived in a one-bedroom house. I'll find a way, she replied, determined. And she truly did. She woke up an hour earlier to walk Milo before work. She bought educational toys to keep him entertained during the day. On weekends, she took him to parks where he could run freely. Kelly's boss, Mr. Martins, a middle-aged man with a passion for local journalism, noticed the subtle change in his always discreet employee. You seem different lately, he commented during a staff meeting. More present. Kelly smiled shyly. I adopted a dog. It has been good for me. What Kelly didn't say was how Milo had become her anchor. On nights when anxiety kept her awake, the calm breathing of the dog lying next to her would soothe her. When negative thoughts threatened to consume her, Milo would appear with a ball in his mouth, demanding attention and play, bringing her back to the present moment. On Sunday mornings, they developed a ritual. Kelly would sit on the porch with a cup of coffee, reading a book or simply watching the neighborhood come to life, while Milo rested at her feet, occasionally looking up to make sure she was still there. Gradually, Kelly started to open up more. Conversations with neighbors in the park during walks with Milo evolved into friendships. One of them, with Sophia, a freelance illustrator who had a border collie named Luna, became particularly important. Before Luna, I hardly left the house, Sophia confessed over coffee after the dog's walk. She saved me from myself. Kelly nodded, recognizing her own story in the words of her new friend. Milo saved me too. He gave me a reason to move forward when everything seemed pointless. With Sophia's support and Milo's constant companionship, Kelly finally sought therapy. Dr. Nora, a psychologist specializing in anxiety, helped Kelly understand the patterns she had developed over the years. You learn to be strong very early, the therapist observed in a session. But being strong doesn't mean carrying everything alone. Months turned into years. Kelly received a promotion at the newspaper, now writing a weekly column about inspiring community stories. She moved to a small house with a yard where Milo could run freely. Her parents, seeing their daughter's transformation, began to take more interest in her life, and family relationships gradually improved. Milo grew strong and healthy, becoming an adult dog with a gentle and protective temperament. His golden fur shone in the sun, and his eyes maintained that intelligent and affectionate expression that had captured Kelly's heart at their first meeting. In difficult moments, and they still came, Milo seemed to sense them. He would quietly approach, resting his head on Kelly's lap or bringing a toy, as if to say, I'm here. You're not alone. When Milo turned 8, Kelly organized a small celebration in the backyard. Sophia and Luna came, as did some friends from the reading group Kelly had started attending. There was even a special cake for dogs that Kelly had ordered from a pet-friendly bakery. To the best friend anyone could have, toasted Kelly, as everyone applauded and Milo wagged his tail, seemingly aware that he was the center of attention. It was a few weeks after the party that Kelly noticed for the first time. Milo was slower climbing the stairs. Sometimes he seemed to hesitate before getting up, as if he needed to gather energy. Initially, Kelly attributed it to age. After all, for a large dog, 8 years already meant advanced maturity. But then came the morning when Milo didn't want to eat. He, who had always been voracious, just sniffed the bowl and walked away. His eyes, usually vibrant, seemed cloudy, distant. At the vet, now with more grey hair than when he met Milo as a puppy, conducted a thorough examination. The diagnosis came with a serious expression, a tumour in the liver, already in an advanced stage. We can try surgery, he explained gently, but I want you to be prepared. The recovery will be difficult and I cannot guarantee results. Kelly felt the world collapse. How had she not noticed before? How had she allowed it to progress so far? Guilt consumed her, mixed with the paralyzing fear of losing her companion. We'll do the surgery, she decided, holding herself together so as not to crumble in front of Milo, who watched her with complete trust, as he always had. The days leading up to the surgery were distressing. Kelly took leave from work to stay with Milo, preparing special meals that he barely touched, and sleeping on the floor next to him when getting on the bed seemed too painful for the animal. Sophia appeared regularly, bringing food for Kelly and helping with Milo. "He's strong," she kept repeating. "And so are you." The morning of the surgery arrived with an autumn mist covering the city. Kelly took Milo to the clinic, her heart as heavy as lead. He licked her hand as she said goodbye, a gesture so simple and profound that Kelly almost couldn't walk away. The 8-hour wait was the longest of her life. When the veterinarian finally appeared, his face said it all. "We managed to remove a large part of the tumour," he explained. "But there were metastases we tried our best to reach. He survived the surgery, which is already a good sign, but..." "How long?" Kelly forced the words through the lump in her throat. "Hard to say exactly. Weeks, maybe a month or two in the best-case scenario. The important thing now is to keep him comfortable." Kelly nodded mechanically, unable to fully process the information. Milo would return home the next day after observation. She would have time to prepare to strengthen herself. But how do you prepare to say goodbye to the one who saved you? Milo returned home quietly, still under the influence of medications. Kelly had prepared a special bed in the kitchen, near the door leading to the backyard, to facilitate necessary outings. She placed fresh water and soft food that the veterinarian had recommended, although she knew his appetite would remain reduced. In the following days, Kelly monitored Milo's every breath, every small movement. There were moments of improvement when he managed to take a few steps in the backyard or responded to the sound of his name. There were also moments of visible decline when he remained motionless for hours, only his eyes following Kelly around the house. A week after the surgery, on a particularly difficult afternoon when Milo had even refused his favourite treat, Kelly felt the weight of reality crushing her. She knew what was coming, and the helplessness in the face of the inevitable was devastating. She got a glass of water, made sure Milo was comfortable in his bed, and went out to the porch. The sky was beginning to darken, bringing the characteristic cold of autumn nights. Kelly sat in the rocking chair, the same chair where she had so often contemplated the horizon with Milo lying at her feet. Tears came without warning, silent at first, then in uncontrollable sobs. Years of memories flashed through her mind. Milo as a puppy destroying her favourite pair of slippers. Milo as an adolescent running on the beach during their first vacation together. Milo as an adult, serene and wise, always by her side during emotional storms. "I'm not ready," she whispered to the star-filled sky. "Please, not yet." Kelly rarely prayed. Her relationship with spirituality was complicated, shaped by years of unanswered questions. But at that moment, feeling small before the universe, the words came naturally. "If you're listening," she continued, looking up, "he deserves more time. He gave so much, asked for so little. Please." It was a simple prayer, born out of despair and love. Kelly did not expect answers. The world rarely worked that way. But there was something comforting in expressing her deepest desire, in admitting her vulnerability. Then she heard it. A noise coming from inside the house, the sound of something falling, followed by the spilling of water. Kelly froze for a moment, her heart racing. Milo had been so weak when she left him. Had he tried to get up and fallen? She quickly stood up, wiping the tears with the back of her hands, and ran inside. What she saw in the kitchen left her paralysed, her breath caught in her throat. Milo was standing. Not just standing, but supported on his hind legs, the front paws resting on the edge of the sink. The water bottle that Kelly had left there was tipped over, its contents forming a puddle on the floor. Milo turned his head upon hearing Kelly enter, his eyes brighter and more alert than they had been in days. "Milo," Kelly whispered, unsure if she was really seeing what her eyes captured. The dog came down slowly, his paws finding the ground with more steadiness than he had shown since before the surgery. He walked toward Kelly, not with the painful hesitation of recent days, but with determined steps, almost normal. Kelly knelt down, incredulous, extending her trembling hands. Milo approached, rubbing his snout against her fingers, then licking her face as he used to do when she cried. "How?" murmured Kelly, gently hugging the animal, feeling its warm body and steady breathing. "How is it possible?" There was no logical explanation for what she was witnessing. The veterinarian had been clear about the prognosis. The metastases, the progressive weakness, the inevitable decline. And yet, there was Milo, looking at her with that familiar expression of absolute devotion, as if to say, "I haven't finished my mission here yet." In the following days, Milo's improvement continued, leaving Kelly and the veterinarian perplexed. The tests showed an unexpected reduction of the metastases, something the veterinarian described as extremely rare, but not impossible. "Sometimes medicine doesn't have all the answers," he admitted, watching Milo walk around the office with renewed energy. "Perhaps it's the familiar environment, the love. Or maybe it just wasn't his time." Kelly knew there were no guarantees. The life of a dog, even in the best circumstances, is shorter than a human's. One day inevitably she would have to say goodbye to Milo, but that day wouldn't be today, nor tomorrow. As she watched Milo lying again at her feet on the porch, under the sun of a new day, Kelly felt a deep gratitude. Not just for the extra time, for the second chance they had been given, but for everything Milo had taught her over the years. He had taught her about unconditional loyalty, about finding joy in simple things, a ray of sunshine, a ball thrown, a gentle caress, about being present in the moment without getting lost in past regrets or future anxieties, about loving without reservation. Kelly reached out, stroking the golden fur that now had a few white strands around the muzzle. Milo lifted his head, his eyes meeting hers with that connection that transcended words. "Thank you," Kelly whispered, knowing that he understood in his wise and canine way. "For every day, for every moment." Milo responded with a gentle wag of his tail, returning to rest as the sun continued its journey across the sky. Kelly smiled, feeling complete. The future would still bring challenges, farewells, and new journeys. But for now, in this perfect moment of an ordinary day, there was only gratitude and the silent certainty that some bonds are eternal, transcending even the time we are given. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.